the important thing for me to learn was as well, if he didn't get it right, not to blame him.
Ooh, you're preaching right now.
And now, coming to you from the K2 studios in San Diego, California, it's the world-famous Kris and Kristine Show.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? How are you doing today? Thank you so much for listening, and I am Kris.
And I'm Kristine, and welcome to episode 91 of the Kris and Kristine Show.
How you doing today, baby?
You're very giggly today.
I usually get giggling on podcasting day. You know how I roll, baby.
Yeah, and it might not help that I'm making faces at you across the studio.
I know. I'm trying to be all serious, and there's Kristine over there making faces at me.
I'm just trying to get in the mood. Trying to get in the flow.
Oh, yeah.
In the podcast flow.
You know, some podcasts, or should I say some morning radio shows, they'll do this thing where they all like clap, dance or something before they actually get the mics going.
Yeah, it's just like when you like get ready to go out on the field for a game or something. You're like pumping yourself up. It's
what?
Maybe we should do like some, well, you do it sometimes, and sometimes it drives me nuts.
What do
like,
I do?
I don't know. You're like, I can't even describe it because we're on audio and not video, but it's like this like thing with your arms where you're like almost like flapping them.
Do you think I talk with my hands too much?
No,
or like point at things?
But when we get started, you do this like thing where you're like circling your arms, like, and here we roll. And I'm like, can you just get to it?
Oh, come on. It's all the listeners love it.
Yeah. They can't see you because this is an audio podcast.
Well, anyways. Hey, speaking of audio, we are currently using the old dinosaur computer. So we're back to that. So hopefully this thing does not eat up our audio.
Oh, yeah, because we were using the P4, PodTrack P4 last week, and that was pretty awesome. But yeah, we had some technical issues with the computer when we were recording an interview last week. So so why don't you tell everybody about the new computer decision-making saga that you've been involved in? And let me say, people, if you ever think that anybody talks about one specific subject too much, you're wrong. Come to my household and listen to my husband.
What are you talking about?
Chris, did you get a new computer yet?
No, I have not. But I was looking today.
Oh, what did your looking entail?
Well, okay. I went over to Best Buy, which is down the street, right? So I go to Best Buy. I take both kids with me to Best Buy.
But you went to Costco last week.
Right.
Okay.
But I went to Costco just to get Costco stuff. And then I happened to be there by the computers and looking and browsing and talking to the salespeople about the computer stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So today, I went over to Best Buy because I had some computer questions and I wanted to talk to somebody in that field, Best Buy computer salesman. Maybe they can help me out, ask me questions.
But why is that? Because you have a PC right now. Why is it that you need to talk to someone? Because you know PCs and you know what you need. What is the big tipping point as it relates to this decision about a new computer?
Well, do I continue with going with a Windows PC, Windows 10 or whatever they're on right now? I don't even know. Maybe it's 20, I don't know. And continue with that. Or do I flip the script and go to Apple?
Well, as you all can tell by my sigh, I would favor you choosing a PC because PC means probably Kris can figure it out on his own. And an Apple is like Eve taking the first bite out of the apple because she had to make the first move to help Adam figure out where the fruit came from.
Okay.
That would be the story.
Okay. Well,
do you know how to function a Mac?
Well, the guy told me at the store. It's like an iPhone.
No.
I have an iPhone.
No. Kris, do you know how to work on a Mac?
Sure, I could. I could figure it out.
Do you know how to even click on my MacBook?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
That's a negative. You're like using the trackpad and like, why doesn't it click? And I'm like, you just have to tap. You're like, what the heck?
I know.
I just have to tap on this thing. But I guess it would be different if you have like a mouse and a keyboard and you're not using like a MacBook.
Well, so the problem is that I have a desktop tower PC. It's not the one that's an all-in-one. It's the box that sits to the side, and then your computer, monitor, and keyboard, and all that junk is plugged into it. So what I was looking at getting was either another one of those, which seem to be harder to find these days, to tell you the truth. A lot of new computers are going to those all-in-ones where it's just a monitor and everything's plugs into that.
Right.
My parents have one. The Macs have been like that for years. And so I was trying to find a computer that can do it, that kind of replace what I have. And they're hard to find, especially ones with as much memory this one's got. This one has like 2 terabytes of memory, which is kind of rare for a computer these days. Most of them give you like half of a terabyte or maybe 1 terabyte at the most. So
is half a terabyte like a tera? Or a byte?
Yeah, kind of.
Or is it like a pterodactyl?
More like a dactyl.
Because every time you say terabyte, it makes me think of dinosaurs. Like,
oh, really?
Dinosaurs, a pterodactyl taking a bite, like a terabyte.
That's where they got the name, actually.
They should call them dino bites.
Oh, they do have that. That's the next size.
Is that the next size up?
I think so, yeah.
It goes like gigabyte, megabyte, dinobite.
Shark bite.
I'm going to bite.
Yeah. So the computer I'm actually looking at getting into is the new Macintosh or Mac Mini with the brand new M1 chip, which they say is amazing.
Who is they?
Every salesman I talked to today. At the store.
Every salesman that's trying to get you to buy their product. That's the they.
But the
very reliable source. You're welcome.
I talked to 3 different guys today at Best Buy about the same thing. And the thing I've heard from all of them is that the M1 chip is way faster and it takes less memory and less RAM to run it. And
are you sure it's M1 and not like MI, like me?
Yeah, it's a me chip is what we call it. Yeah, the my chip maybe?
Maybe.
So anyways, for the same price point to get a decent tower, I could get the M1 chip and buy an extra hard drive and buy extra stuff. Because
external hard drive, because it only has a 256, I don't know,
gigabyte,
mini byte memory. So
right.
you're functioning off a 2 terabyte memory, and you're thinking of going down to 256, but getting a brand new computer because it has this super fast microchip inside of it that when you looked at it is related to the Intel chip?
No, it's not. This M1 chip is a totally all new processor by Apple. It's supposed to be unbelievably fast. So they put it in the new Apple's new iMac machine, which I guess you have to order those. They're not available yet. But anyways, it's going to power that. It's powering the computer like you have. It's powering that stuff. It's not going to be in the phones as far as I know, but it's super crazy fast. Anyways, point being.
I just had an aha moment. Gosh, I just had an aha moment. I'm sitting here cracking myself up like, what is your fascination with the Apple computers? And I realized that you want your computer to function like a race car.
Yeah, that's it. 100%. Yes, 100%.
You feel the need for speed, processing speed.
Right.
Not necessarily that it has all of the bells and whistles. So it could be more stripped down and a little bit rougher because it doesn't have all of the memory that you needed, but because it's fast, you want it.
Well, here's the thing. See, I was at the store today, and the guys were telling me that you can buy these little, like, adapters that can plug into the doohickey, and you can add things like bigger hard drives. You can add, what else can you add to the thing?
So instead of getting the already created computer the way that you want it with everything included, you could buy it for this chip, but it still doesn't have the memory you want. So then you have to attach all of these other gadgets to it. So you end up spending like 4 times as much.
Well, not 4. Actually, you end up spending about the same price as if I would get a tower that had all the stuff I wanted.
So I am fine with whatever you choose. Your money, no honey, your decision. But I will say this. I love you dearly, but I cannot teach you how to use a Mac because it would be like me teaching you how to drive, and I don't know if our relationship would survive it.
Oh, come on, babe.
No.
Come on, babe.
Honey, the way that you navigate change, and you are just horrific when it comes to trying new things. I mean, you will like probably say, I should have never done this. I'm just going to throw this away. I'm going to go back. I'm going to return it. Where's my old tower? Why'd you tell me to give away the old tower? And I'm going to get it back from whoever I gave it to. And, I don't know. This is exactly the conversation. You don't like change.
That is so true. You're so right. But I think...
Could say that again?
You are so right, baby.
Hold on one more time. I think that it cut out for a second.
You're so right.
How right?
That's so right.
Like how many O's on that so?
Like a couple.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear that so.
A few. So you're so right, babe. But here's the thing. No matter what I do,
I'm like so right, like a dozen donuts O's right.
Yes, correctamundo. So what I'm saying is that it doesn't matter if I go to a new tower PC or I go to a new Mac PC or Mac computer, what do we call them? I'm gonna have to do something new. This old computer, it's been with me for so long. It's got to get. It's on its end of its life cycle.
I think it is. I mean, it's definitely kind of on life support right now. You like woke it back up from the dead and had to do some heart surgery on it last week.
Yeah, I cleaned out all the insides.
You did.
I gave it a nice flush.
You definitely did.
A cleansing.
Okay, I was about to go down a line of thinking right then that are not appropriate for our family-friendly podcast. But, well, that's been an interesting conversation between us this week. I've also had an interesting week this week.
Ooh, what happened to you, baby?
Well, I started to transition back to in-person work and 2 days a week. And gosh, I have become quite the introvert from working at home and being isolated. I didn't realize how much small talk occupies so much brain space. I'm just like being around so many other people. And, you know, it's a little bit difficult because I work at home for 3 days a week and then in the office. And so I'm like trekking my stuff back and forth. But man, I was zonked this week after my work.
What do you think it was? Just to physically having to drive somewhere and clock in, or not really clock in, but be there. And
I think it was like being around so many people and like having to ping pong into different conversations and catching up on projects, and then being masked the entire time where I didn't feel like I was breathing as freely. And, you know, I have asthma, and so that was a little bit difficult. But then, you know what I didn't realize really impacts me? I've worked in pretty much natural light for a year because the place where I sit and I work, I keep the blinds open and the fresh air blowing on me all day long. And then I went back into a cubicle where I was covered with fluorescent lights and, you know, kind of in a regular desk setup. I didn't have as much freedom to like get up and walk around and stretch my legs, like come down and have coffee with you, and we're not allowed to eat at our desks.
I miss that so much.
Well, we're not allowed to eat at our desks, and I'm not complaining. It's just the way that things are for safety reasons. So I find myself not like having my snacks as regularly because I don't want to grab my food and take it downstairs and outside. It just seems like a burden. But one thing that I am doing is hydrating a lot. So that's really good.
That is really good. You got to do that. I mean, I do it too at work. I drink like probably 3 or 4
do.
water bottles at work every night. And during the day, too. We actually have some right here, so.
Yeah, so there was that. And then I've just been working on a couple of other projects, you know, some like businessy types of projects and things like that, and prepping for summertime. But the other thing that I've done in the evenings, which has helped me to really decompress, is I've been binge watching Downton Abbey.
I know you have.
I know.
What is your fascination with that show?
So what's really interesting is I went through this time period where I watched it religiously. Like I would do the dress up parties to go to the premiere of the first episode of each season. And
interesting.
Go watch it in like a big theater down in Tower District in Fresno. And then I would watch every episode as it came out on TV. But then, you know, right as it was getting really deep into the storyline, I think it was right at the end of season 4, is when I split up from my ex-husband. And so then I just kind of, like everything the few months before that and in the midst of it and then afterwards, it was kind of a blur. And so as I've been watching it over again, I'm watching the UK version, which you get a couple of extra minutes.
Wait a second. Is there a difference?
Yeah, there is. And I was watching the UK version, and there were some things that I didn't remember being in the original one. Maybe it is the same. But watching everything through for a second time and like consistently through instead of like one a week, the story is building so much better for me. And I did that with a couple of other shows, but today was it was my lazy bum day. And, you know, I woke up early with a puppy and started to watch a few episodes and then watched them this afternoon after I showered and the kids were playing. And I think my body needed it after this week of transition, is to just kind of like be a couch potato. And then after, you know, finishing school and everything, I'm just learning how to like rest And that for right now includes binge watching Downton Abbey.
Well, you know what I was thinking as you're saying that is that it's almost like, your first day back to school after you've been off for the summer break. Hey, it's a wholly different change. I mean, even though you're working still, but going in physically in person, being in an office, being around people other than me, of course, and driving there, driving back, that whole event has got to be just such a daunting task on your body because you're not used to doing that for so long.
Well, that plus, being in a different type of a seated setup, like, you're stretching different types of muscles based off of how you sit ergonomically with the chair and the desk and all of that. So yeah, my body's just adjusting to it all, and I'll get into my rhythm, but it was really nice. The first day I walked back on campus, that's what we call it. I walked back on campus. I just was grinning under my mask because it did feel really good to get back to this place that was so familiar and to start feeling like there was a little bit of normalcy coming back. And so while I know there's a lot of different opinions about going back to in-person work, I did appreciate being able to start transitioning back. I'll just be really happy once we get to the point where we can take our masks off and actually sit down and have lunch together, because we can't really have lunch together even. Like, there's no tables and stuff like that. We're just like on our benches outside. But you know what? It's just one step at a time. And today I took that first big step and I survived.
Look at you, baby.
I know.
Congratulations. You're back to work. How long
Thank you.
Has it been a full entire year since you were back over there?
Yeah, it's been, I stopped over to get a few things one time, but it's been 15 months or 14 and a half months.
Since you actually been over there?
Yeah, March 13th.
Wow.
Yeah, 2020.
Did it all come back like, oh yeah, I know where that is. Oh yeah, check that. That's where Joe sits.
Oh, of course. Yeah, but I had to do a lot of cleaning because so much dust had accumulated in my area.
They didn't have cleaners come through there first before you guys came over there?
No, they're going to do it after everybody gets back, like for a week or two, and we get our stuff like cleaned out the way we want it. They'll come through and deep clean everything.
Oh, okay. I guess so.
But yeah, anyway, so, it was just an interesting week. And I was thinking this weekend as I was like laying like a couch potato and you were busy, how our ideas of relaxation are pretty different on the weekends.
What do you say? I'm like always go, go, go?
No, I just mean like I've been kind of like stepping back and thinking about how, our relationship has moved through a lot of different phases, and how during COVID, we've got so comfortable being around each other, but also a lot of our relationship, I was in school, pretty much all of it. And now I think you're getting to see a different Kristine.
Ooh, let's see how exciting this one's going to be.
I know. And so I've been thinking about that. And, that brings me to talk about our upcoming guest that we have, who is an expert in relationships and intimacy. And she is going to be with us sharing some really interesting tips and ideas about relationship that I know will be very beneficial for not just us, but for all of our listeners.
That's right. And she will be on the show, coming to us live from Spain right after this. Hey there, K2 crew. We love having you as our loyal listeners.
To keep up to date with what's happening behind the scenes, check us out on social media.
Yeah, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter.
And don't forget to follow our Facebook page.
Yeah, tag us in your favorite fun stories, and guess what? You might just end up on the show.
Ooh.
Today's episode is brought to you by Baruch. Now, Baruch is an electric toothbrush that will change the way you think about brushing your teeth. With powerful sonic technology and ultra-gentle bristles, the Baruch redefines what it means to have super clean teeth. It's like that feeling when you first leave the dentist. A fresh, whole mouth clean every single day. Our listeners get 15% off total purchase with code POD15. Follow the link in the show notes and enter the code POD15 to get your exclusive discount and upgrade your oral care routine.
Welcome back, everybody. Today we have another special VIP guest. This one is an international visitor to the Kris and Kristine show. She is a relationship and intimacy coach. Welcome to the show, Nathalie Sommer.
Hi, Kris and Kristine. It's such a pleasure to be with you guys here.
We're so
Really
excited to have you.
Thank you. Very excited to be here.
Hey, Nathalie. Hey, it's Nathalie Sommer. Summers or Summer?
Summer.
Perfect, like the weather. I love it.
We're almost into summer.
I know. So, hey, Nathalie, hey, speaking of which, where in this wonderful world are you actually coming to us from today?
From Spain, from beautiful, sunny Spain.
Spain. Wow, it's like on the other side of the world.
What area of Spain are you in?
On the Costa Blanca, which is kind of in the middle along the coast, and pretty much in the center along the coast of Spain, and between Alicante and Valencia, to be specific.
Oh, wow. I went to Spain 2 summers ago for the first time and was able to visit Barcelona. And it is so beautiful there. And oh gosh, like sitting out with my sister and having sangria and overlooking the water. It was just gorgeous.
Yeah, Barcelona is amazing. And especially in summer, I think there's nothing better than Europe in summertime.
Have you lived in Europe your entire life?
I'm Swiss. I'm from Switzerland. I grew up in Switzerland I stayed there till I was 19. And then I moved to Australia, lived there for 13 years, 7 years in Hong Kong, and now in Spain.
Wow. So that's like a lot of, the moving costs alone must be outrageous.
Especially when you do it with a dog.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We just got a dog. So we're learning all of the things that are costing extra from having a puppy.
Yes.
So what led you to move from country to country to country? Those seem pretty far apart.
Adventurous spirit.
Wow.
I just always had that itch and just knew there's more to experience and had that longing and just followed that longing.
That's amazing.
You always go to Google and you can do the same thing via
virtual travel.
I think it's what we have to do these days. There's really not much else to do other than just looking at beautiful images of the Maldives and just delve into those images.
Absolutely. Now, Kris isn't a huge international traveler. Do you have any tips that I can use to help give him the travel bug like you, Nathalie?
I think go to Australia. It's a beautiful country. There's so much to see. It's very versatile. People speak English, although it is with a different accent. It took me a while to actually understand them. But now I really love the accent. It's just such a beautiful country, and it's easy to travel. It's easy to get around. Yeah, it is big, but it's a beautiful country.
That's one place I've always wanted to go. And the main reason why I wanted to go to Australia was because of the toilet flushing, which I don't know if you know this or not, but the toilets flush backwards in Australia.
I have heard that. I've never checked it, but I have heard that. Yeah.
See, yeah, it's a fact. It's a myth.
Do they flush backwards or do ours flush backwards? It's like a chicken and the egg question, right?
Good question.
So you've moved to a number of different countries. What led you to land in Spain?
Yeah, I really loved. I'm married, and me and my husband really loved living in Hong Kong, but being far away from family, he's British, and having been away for almost 20 years, I felt it was time to come back to Europe, to be closer to family, to be closer to friends, and just come back to my roots. And Switzerland wasn't necessarily on the cards. It's quite cold in winter. I don't really like the cold.
Who does? Who does really? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. So Spain felt like a good option.
That's awesome. And so how did you and your husband meet?
We met in Australia. I used to have a vegetarian cafe, and he walked past and somehow liked the look of the menu, came in, and we started a conversation, and the rest is history.
Wow, how sweet is that?
That's like a movie. That's so cute.
So when you guys had your first meal together, what did you guys order?
Oh, that's a while ago. I really can't remember.
Was it at your cafe? Like, did he actually sit down and eat?
He did, yeah.
Oh, that's so cute.
Now, can you tell instantly by somebody what they ordered? Like, you meet somebody for the first time. Say you're working at a cafe, right? And this guy walks in, he's flirting with you, and he orders something one way or another. Can you tell what kind of person this guy is?
I never thought of that. But yeah, you probably can. You probably can look at, how much are they taking care of their body? Are they being conscious about what they are putting into the body? I guess it probably will tell you something. But at the end of the day, probably won't tell you everything, because once in a while we all like to indulge in something that's a bit more naughty.
Yes, good
Right.
point.
It's like when
Just by that.
it's like when I go to the grocery store, and I don't know if they have the grocery store there, but they have the conveyor belt where everybody's putting their items on the conveyor to be checked out, and you totally judge the person that has like chips and candy bars and cookies and all that and soda, and then I hear you get the
Or
other,
like you, the 5-pack of ice cream.
oh, okay.
And even I even sometimes feel guilty when I just start unloading or unpacking. I'm like, oh, I hope nobody's watching. I hope nobody. Sometimes some people, when you meet somebody in your grocery shopping that and they have a peek into your shopping basket, it's like, come on, that's personal.
Right. They should have privacy screens. Like if I'm going to go home and binge watch Netflix and, indulge in ice cream all weekend long, I don't need anybody judging me while I pay for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so you met your husband in Australia. How long have the two of you been married?
We've been married for 6 years.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
Where did you guys get married at?
Congratulations are in order.
Oh, thank you.
What country did you guys get married in?
We had 2 weddings, one in Hong Kong and one in Thailand. So the one in Hong Kong was at the registry, and the one in Thailand was for friends and family.
Ooh, tell us about that experience. I've seen weddings in Thailand before, and they look like they're very beautiful. What was your experience like having a wedding in Thailand?
I think the nice thing for us as a couple was that we didn't have to be on premises to organize or do anything. Like it was all, you just sent emails, you told them what you wanted, and they just organized it all for you. So there wasn't a lot of stress involved. And then when you're in a beautiful place by the beach and you're going on holiday, naturally you already are relaxed on holiday. So everybody was really relaxed. The whole experience was very relaxed, and there was just like a lot of love because we were all in a great mood.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It was really a beautiful, and you don't just only spend one day together with the people you care about. You get to spend a week with them, and that was just really, really special.
That's fantastic. We were supposed to get married in Hawaii during 2020, the pandemic year, but Hawaii locked our borders and shut everybody out and all that fun stuff. But very similar to your wedding, we were going to do something similar in Hawaii, family and friends for a week in Hawaii. But
Yeah. So we're living vicariously through you.
Yeah. And you guys just got married as well.
Right, in November. So we had thought about postponing until Hawaii reopened, but we really wanted to keep the date, November 20th, 2020.
Was that our anniversary? I got to write that down.
Oh my gosh, you're a goofball. But we really wanted to keep the date. And so Kris had an idea that we just do it locally here. And we ended up having a beautiful reception. We have a small backyard, but, with COVID restrictions on how many people you can have gathering together, it fit very nicely, and it looked like a little fairy tale, and it was beautiful and a perfect day.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, wonderful. And congratulations to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, so we're really interested in learning a bit more about you, Nathalie, as you've been this world traveler. As I was reading your bio, it says that you're a relationship and intimacy coach, but you used to own a vegetarian cafe. So tell us about your professional career. Like, what brought you to be the coach that you are today?
So I've always done therapy work. Even when I had the cafe, I had some treatment rooms out the back, so we would do counseling in there. And it's always been something I've been doing. And even at the time then, people would always come to me and ask me about love or they want to talk about love. And a lot of times it's about, when will I meet love, or when will I meet the one, or I'm in a relationship and I'm not sure if it feels quite right. What should I do? And I was always curious about that topic. And, as a coach, you guide and support and help them through these life cycles or relationship cycles. But I also felt it wasn't necessarily my level of expertise. So the more this topic came to the surface, I also felt the need for me to learn more so I can be more of service. And I decided to become a certified relationship and intimacy coach. And of course, studying, learning, applying that work on myself in my relationship has really, really changed my own relationship with self and with my husband as well. So I'm very passionate about this because I feel we all are in relationships in one way or the other, yet we don't really get taught about it. How can we have healthy relationships? So I'm very passionate about it because I feel like it's important that we have tools and understandings of our own needs and how to create, healthy, thriving relationships.
So is there some special secret sauce or tidbit that you'd like to share with our listeners? Because we're all ears. What's the magic behind keeping the love alive?
Yeah, I mean, there's communication, of course, is really important. Compassion for self, compassion for your partner. Acceptance is huge. Accepting yourself, accepting your partner, accepting you can't change somebody, being self-responsible, owning your stuff, owning your, your hurts and not blame, not project. And I feel like what really has created a turn in my relationship was learning about masculine and feminine polarity. When I learned about that, I was like, wow, you know what? This makes so much sense.
Well, what is that?
My relationship has had some challenges. I mean, let's be honest, we all have relationship challenges. It's normal. We're human beings. So masculine and feminine polarity. And first of all, they live inside of us. And masculine is not just applied to men, and feminine is not just applied to women. But so masculine is the doing. The masculine is being on purpose. The masculine is creating. The feminine is the feeling in relationship, love, care, nurture, pleasure, fun, creativity. So now when I first met my husband, he was embodying the masculine. So he was planning things. He would, open the door for me. He was very much on purpose in the doing. And it just felt, for me, I was like, oh, that feels so good, because I didn't feel like I had to do a lot of things I didn't like doing. He was initiating, he was contacting me, he was reaching out, and it just made me feel really loved. So I could be my feelings and emotions of love, and I could show that part to him. And I was in my surrender. I knew he would get things, he would organize it, and I could just trust that he's got it and really surrender and just go with the flow. Mm-hmm. So that to me felt amazing, because for a long time I felt like, okay, I'm a fiercely independent woman. I don't really need to lean on somebody emotionally or in whatever way. So I always felt like, no, I have to, you don't have to carry my bags. I can carry my own bags. You don't have to open the door. I can open my own door. And I actually had people telling me that that didn't feel good to them. Mm-hmm. And, all right. And I still thought the story was still, I'm a fiercely independent woman. So when I met my husband, something felt different in the way how he was doing it. It felt very embodied, and it felt for me really good to let somebody lead. Now, that created a lot of magnetism in our relationship. It felt really good. We really felt like the roles were really well established. And yeah, I didn't feel like I had to constantly do and organize everything and always be my doing, which can lead to exhaustion. So, but then time went on and I went back into my old role. Let me do everything. Let me take care of you. Let me organize things, because it gives me a bit of a sense of control. Mm-hmm. So I would then take away a lot of things that he was previously doing. And then after some time, I felt, hang on, I'm exhausted. I'm tired. It doesn't feel good for me to always take care of everything, to do all the cooking, to organize things, to plan things. And I realized with time, I was actually also resentful that I was in this caretaker role, resentful that I had to lead. And, he obviously polarity happened. So he then went into the receiving of, oh, this is great. She's happy to do all these things. Of course, I'm happy just to let her take over, gives her a sense of control. Great.
So then, Nathalie, where did it change? Like, how did you get that balance back with that masculine, feminine polarity?
Yeah, great question. Great question, Kristine. I had to be self-responsible, and being aware of how much I was doing actually didn't feel good. I created invitations for my husband to step in and support me, because I didn't ask for support before. I didn't create invitations for him to step in. So when I realized how tired and exhausted I was and actually didn't feel good being in that caretaker role, I asked him to support me in the things that felt a bit icky. And I used communication like, this is how I'm feeling. What would be really helpful to me is if you can cook dinner tonight. That will help me feel really loved and cared for.
Oh, how sweet.
Right?
Right. But was he open to that? Because I could see how in a relationship, if somebody gets used to being taken care of, that might cause more friction. Like, well, why am I having to do more work, or more resentment on the other side? How'd you navigate that?
So because there was no blame, whereas before blame came out in different ways, in like, I have to do everything. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. That came out as blame. And that felt not good to him, because he felt blame, and he felt that he's kind of failing me, or he's failing me in one way or the other. He's not able to give me the support that I needed. So when I created invitations versus projecting, I invited him in to help me with dinner. It would make me feel really loved and cared for. This would be really helpful to me. And then I ask, is this possible? So he can check in, is this possible? And if he says no, great, let's look for a solution. What can we do? Maybe we get takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
But me creating invitation and letting him know how it will help me, so he understands. Basically, I give him the medicine, what will help me feel supported, loved, and cared for.
It goes back to that communication you were talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we have to communicate with awareness. And I feel when we are creating invitation to somebody, it's more likely somebody wants to step in, because if they care about you, of course, they want you to feel loved and cared for. Of course, they want you to feel happy. And if at any point he can't, me checking in, are you able to? Then he can say, no, unfortunately, I can't do this right now, but let's get takeaway. So we can also look at other options. And it really changed our dynamics, because I created invitations. And also the important thing for me to learn was as well, if he didn't get it right, not to blame him.
Ooh, you're preaching right now. Ooh, I struggle with that.
Wait, Nathalie, say that one more time.
Oh,
just in case everybody listening right now knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was my lesson to learn, was to let go of control and to trust him, that no matter what, even if he messes it up, that it's okay. I have to give him the benefit of the doubt. And if he messes up, he will get it right the next time. Now, that was a big thing for me to learn.
Now, first of all, question, does your husband at all struggle with perfectionism or control? And not to put him on blast, but let me rephrase that. How would a couple where both individuals are working through challenges with control manage this transition? That's better. Thank you.
Yeah. Good question. Awareness is required from both sides. But also I think if one person creates a shift and leads by example and makes somebody feel, okay, you can get this right, often the other person will feel like, oh, great. All right, there's something different. This feels a bit more relaxed. Maybe they can relax too. So sometimes it's just one person shifting will create a shift in the relationship dynamic. And other times it's just you both have to be aware and all right, so this time it's my time. This is really important to me. Let me lead. And then other times, we shift and you let the other person lead. So it's about creating polarity. One person leads this time, the other person leads the other time. But a lot of the times it's just about one person shifting and just opening up to more, creating invitations. And you'll find that the other person will naturally adapt.
So one of the things that you had mentioned earlier is sometimes it's hard in relationships because of past hurts to be able to like trust. So how might a couple who's entering into a relationship navigate through those old wounds to be able to enter into this polarity? Because it seems like from what I'm hearing, there's a lot of trust that you're going to be well received on the other end.
Yeah. Communication is really key. And that also comes with self-responsibility. So letting somebody know, I feel like we first have to create a healthy relationship with self before we can create a healthy relationship with somebody else. So the more self-aware we are of our blocks or our patterns, it's easier to let somebody know, hey, this is really hard for me. I have a really hard time trusting somebody. I have a really hard time letting go of control. I'm trying very hard to work on this. But what would be really helpful to me, again, in creating invitation, is if we can come to some sort of agreement in those times when I'm getting triggered, in those times when I'm feeling really tense and I'm holding on to control. What would be really helpful to me is if you can just give me a hug or whatever you need, whatever you feel would be helpful, and you create that invitation. So you let the other person know what your struggles are. And usually because oftentimes we show up in a certain way, the other person has no idea why. There's usually a story behind the way how we show up. There's a reason why we feel what we feel. And if we just react, usually people go like, whoa, what have I done wrong? And we take it personal. So if you give them an explanation why you find it really hard to let go of control, for example, there's usually more empathy because they're like, oh yeah, okay, I can see why that's really hard for you. So yeah, of course I want to support you and not take it personal.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so do you ever get to a point in your relationship where you are able to help pull that person out of the opposite? Like so for example, if I am demonstrating more tendencies towards the masculine, how would a person like Kris, just using us hypothetically, help gently interrupt that without it getting into like a blame or a shame cycle?
He can he can feel, okay, Kristine is really in her masculine right now. She's just like holding on or, on purpose. She's on purpose. And he can see that, Kristine, she's on purpose, but I can also see she's a bit struggling. She's a bit tense as she's on purpose. So he shifts into his masculine, and he can, just by inquiring, the more grounded Kris gets, he can feel what's going on. He can just say, hey, Kristine, is there anything going on? Can I be of support? What's going on here for you? Tell me more. Tell me more what's happening. And you probably will feel like a bit like, oh, I'm frustrated and da-da-da. I'm trying to get all these things done. And you can just say, like, tell me more about it. Okay, great. And then he can also empathize and just say, okay, I can see how this is really frustrating. Is there anything that we can do to help you solve this? Is there anything I can do here?
Nathalie, you're saying empathy, but I have a hard time with empathy, I think, in this relationship. Kristine says is that I think I always want to go into the fix-it mode, like, oh, let me try to fix whatever you're struggling with. Is that kind of a thing?
That's a masculine. That's absolutely, that's in your DNA. That's also the masculine, the doing. Let's get it sorted. Let's get from A to B. Let's find a solution. Let's figure it out. And the feminine, she wants to be felt. She wants to feel that you feel her emotions. She wants your connection. She wants to feel, yeah, he's present and he gets it. That's usually all she wants. She wants to feel that, yeah, her emotions are being understood. So you going into the fixing and trying to give the solution, which of course would feel good to you because like, let's be on purpose, let's solve the problem. But emotionally, the feminine being connected to her emotion, that probably won't make her feel loved or she won't feel understood. So that's the best thing you can do is get very grounded and just ask her, what's going on? Tell me more. Oh yeah, I can see how that's very difficult for you.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah,
And you ask her, do you want my help? She might only just want to be listened to, just to feel like, yeah, he's just empathizing, he feels me, he understands me. And maybe she does want you to help. Maybe she does want your advice. You can even ask, would you like me to give you advice here? Would you like me to tell you what I think? And she can say yes or no.
usually she says no. She said,
No, but I'm thinking this is very helpful for couples also as they're navigating dating because like you said, there comes a time when you move past the honeymoon phase and you start to get a bit more comfortable and establish patterns. And I think that giving different couples tools to help establish healthy patterns is really helpful because one of the things that Kris and I are very open about with our podcast is we both were operating for a number of years as single parents. And in the single parent role, when you have children, and they're with you for a large chunk of time, you're having to fulfill both sides of the house. You have to get things done. So you have to be in that masculine at times, but then you also have to meet their emotional needs. And so you're constantly toggling back and forth. And those are those relationships that you're most surrounded with. And so then when you plop a single parent into a dynamic with two healthy, productive adults, I could see how that could be a bit of a clash in trying to reestablish a healthy rhythm. So other than creating the invitations, what are some other strategies that you encourage couples to work through on the relationship side?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to speak directly to men here.
I'm listening.
And, I feel like from what I've learned and what I've studied and what I've discovered, men they like to be on purpose, but they also like to have a sense of freedom. They need to have space to just be, just space to do, to have space to be on purpose. So the more we can give them that space to be on purpose, the more we can give them that sense of freedom, the more they thrive. And once they have had, like, it could just be after a hard day of work, just having like 15 minutes, half an hour just to unwind and just being nothingness is actually really important for them. And if we can give them that time and let them be in their purpose, because that's really what they thrive. That's what makes them feel alive. It's not like they don't want to have love, they don't want to have relationships. But if you ask a man, like, what's the most important thing for you? What makes you feel really alive? He's probably not going to say, oh yeah, being in the arms of my beloved. That will feel really good, but it's not going to necessarily make him feel completely on purpose and fully alive. He probably feels most alive when he's doing the work that he's passionate about. So giving them an opportunity to be on purpose and have space and freedom to be is really important. Now, obviously, to women, what we crave, like, not saying that relationship is the most important thing to us, but relationships is really important because just think of the career choice. A lot of times we choose is to be nurses, psychologists, caretakers, because we want to be in relationship with people. We want to be connected. We want to feel nurture and we want to nurture. So relationship is really important to us. And what makes women feel loved is then when the partner can come in and also once they've had space, time, and freedom for them to, when they then have had that, they can come into the relationship container more filled up to be able to be more available and actually step into that area of their life and actually give more and be more present, be more available, give more love, which allows women to feel happy in the relationship. Because a lot of times we women tend to think, how's my relationship feeling right now? Am I happy? Are things on track? How are things going on in the family? Like, we often think about the relationship and how it feels. And if we feel like, oh, there's a lack of, go like, oh, connect and let's make it better. So realizing that we are different, that it's on our mind, and that we constantly want the feeling of connection. We always want more of whatever, more presence, more fun, more passion, more whatever. So being aware of that and creating time and space for it in a way that feels good and actually make it more quality time is, I feel like, really important. And I really feel that a lot of the times we don't make enough space and time, quality time for our relationships. But when we create that, both people are able to come in and be aware and actually be present with one another and have their needs met.
That makes so much sense. But it leads me to another question, Nathalie. As we think about, and I don't know if this is the same culture that's in Spain or in the broader area of Europe, but in the American culture, there's a lot of movement around like defeating gender stereotypes and what should be a man's work versus a woman's work. And I've seen that in trying to disrupt like the typical roles within relationships. So does this masculine and feminine polarity, does it connect with, or is it opposite of this idea of sharing gender roles within the relationship?
Yeah, great question. So now tonight we talked a lot about men and women and masculine and feminine. We also touched on your relationship as well. But it's also important to understand that this polarity is something that it's not gender related either. It's something that lives inside of us. Like right now, I am in my masculine because I have to be present. I'm talking to you guys. So I'm very much in the doing. And I also know my preferred energy or feeling to be in is actually deep down what I yearn for is to be my feminine. For a long time I wasn't, so that's why I felt very disconnected and I didn't feel I had my needs met. So I know that my preferred energy to be in is feminine because part to my human design and part to my yearning and what feels good. But also there is also a lot of men out there that are very in touch with their feminine. There's also a lot of people out there that are very in touch with their masculine. And I think there's nothing wrong if that's what feels really good, if that's what feels really good in your body, that you feeling fully aligned to that. But a lot of the times we do need to check and actually what feels better for me or what feels more aligned to me. How does it feel in my being? And it's not necessarily gender related. It's just more of like what is really right or aligned for me.
Huh. Okay.
That does make sense because I was wondering a bit about that. When we term it masculine and feminine polarity, I could see how a man or a woman could say, like, if I'm in my masculine and I'm a woman, how that feels like it's a negative, or if a man was to be in the feminine, which means he's more connected with his emotions, how he could view that as being something that is the opposite. So how do you get around that language with helping couples understand that that's not negative?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, first of all, masculine, feminine is just another term. You can also have yin and yang. There is so many different terms, conscious, unconscious, whatever you want to use. There's so many different. I just like to use that terminology just because of the work that I do. It just works. It just aligns. And I don't think like if, let's say you are a woman and you are quite connected to your masculine, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with you being in your masculine, in your doing. You strengthened that muscle probably really well throughout your life, and there's probably a reason why you strengthened that muscle really well throughout your life. But if you start to feel inside of you, actually, you know what, I would like to have more fun or more creativity or more connection and more love and more nurture, self-care, then maybe it's time to move more into your feminine. Maybe it's time to just expand and learn to become comfortable in that. So it's not that we need to be ashamed if you're a male and you're very in tune with your emotions, because maybe you had a lot of sisters growing up, or maybe you were just surrounded by more women. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's that feels great. But maybe inside of you, maybe you're in a relationship where the partner that you with, whether it's a man or a female, that's really in their masculine, but maybe you also want to lead sometimes. Maybe it's time for you to strengthen that muscle because you also have a yearning or desire to be more in leadership, to be more trusted. So we always create polarity throughout the whole day, whether it's working, whether it's parenting, whether it's our relationship. But it's just a matter of being aware of what feels good and where does it feel good for me to be in?
You know, Natalie, they always say, like, if you really act on what feels good, especially for younger people, that you're talking down a slippery slope, because then they're going to, like, addiction and things of that sort, too.
I don't think she's talking about that, honey. I think she's talking about, like, emotionally, what feels good.
But you think about this. Emotional addiction can be created by a lot of things, drugs, alcohol, even love and sex and things like that. So at what point do you have to really kind of say, should I really go all in on this addictive personality if somebody has an addictive personality?
Interesting question. I'm going to have to ask you to be more specific. Like, what do you mean by, like, addicted to what, or addicted, like, in what context?
Well, I know that I know that a lot of people do have addictive personalities. I do a little bit, and there are some that do, and that's where you get the addicts, and people can be addicted to a lot of things. It can be addicted to women. It can be addicted to sex. It can be addicted to drugs. It can be addicted to alcohol.
Mm-hmm. But so clarify, honey, because I'm a little confused. How do you see that? Because I know you see a connection between the relationship talk. Like, what are you seeing as the bridge?
I'm saying is that you mentioned that if you're an addictive.
No, you were mentioning about how do what feels good for you, what feels right. And I think that what Nathalie was saying is related to being in the masculine versus the feminine polarity. Is that correct, Nathalie?
Yeah, that's what I meant. But also interesting question, Kris, as well. I think when we do have an addictive personality, I would say that, there's a reason to that. There's always a reason to everything. And, into the feeling good, like, does it really feel good? Like, in your whole being, is it really like, that makes me feel on purpose? That makes me feel really good in my being? Or is it because there's some sort of conditioning or history attached to that?
Yeah, so that's a really good point. And actually, Kris, you triggered a really, like, a light bulb for me, because it was something that I've kind of been wrestling with. And I'm wondering, just going to think out loud here for a second, Nathalie, because I'm thinking about, as you were talking about what feels good and kind of this polarity, immediately where my mind went because of some past wounds that I've had is, so if Kris is in the masculine, then I need to be in the feminine. And then it makes me wonder, if somebody misinterprets this, could this breed codependency where you're trying to read the other person? It seems like there's a real art to practicing this and refining it so you don't just try to be the opposite of the other person.
Yeah. And, I think healthy relationships, it's a practice. You don't just get born being in a healthy relationship.
Right.
Unless you're very special. So, I think creating healthy relationships, it becomes a practice. And I think, you can have the unhealthy masculine and the unhealthy feminine. So the unhealthy masculine is just like constantly doing, in control, wanting to get things done, not really taking care of their needs. And then you have the other person, because you create polarity, like somebody that's like, you've got the avoidant, always doing, taking care, thinking only about work. Then you've got the anxious attachment, or the anxious person on the other side is like, oh, let me give you love, and I need love, and let me just make sure I can still feel loved. And we can create very unhealthy polarity. So it is important that we are in a space, again, where it feels good, where it feels aligned, and that's important that we are aware. So then if we are in our healthy feminine, we also can create polarity for somebody to be in their healthy masculine.
This is so interesting to me, Nathalie. Like, you're blowing my mind right now as I'm thinking. I like to, as I'm listening to individuals that we interview think about the way that I operate, because I feel like Kris and I have joked before that our podcast is a little bit like therapy session for us, because we listen to these interviews and then when we release the episodes, we listen over and over to them, and I learned so much. And I'm just wondering, like, is this concept of masculine and feminine polarity something that you provide more training on, or do you have any types of classes or coaching that anybody can participate in if they're interested?
Yeah, so I offer workshops and trainings and also one-on-one coaching as well. And it's for individuals and couples.
Do you do it via like Zoom, like a Zoom call kind of thing?
Yeah, all done via Zoom. So my clientele is global. So they're all based all around the globe, and makes it easy as well. You can do it from the comfort of your own home, because otherwise you have to get somewhere, especially when you coach a couple as well. They have different schedules. So when they can just come home after work or have some time at home, they can just like, right, let's just have our time to connect to one another and get some support from Nathalie.
So Nathalie, on that note, I have to ask you this question. Do you speak any other languages other than English?
Yes, I speak my mother tongue, which is Swiss German, and I speak German and French, and I'm learning Spanish.
The reason why I ask you that is because you are global, and I was wondering if your clients come in from different countries, would you consult them in their native tongue?
Yeah, I have got clients in Switzerland and Germany, but I prefer to coach in English because I've been living abroad for so long, speaking English, and
Right.
I've learned to express my emotions in English, and all the training and coaching and therapy that I have done working with clients as well is usually in English. So I find that I feel most comfortable to speak in English.
Okay, awesome. Now, is English, I don't travel much, but is English one of the main languages you come across around the world?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really? So if I travel, I'll be all right, huh?
Yeah, English and sign language.
You're helping me get that travel bug for him, Nathalie. So how would our listeners be able to take advantage of connecting with you? Like, where can they find more information about your classes, your coaching?
Yeah, so they can head to my website. So it's my full name, NathalieSommer.com. And you can also find me on Instagram as well under Nathalie Sommer. I've also got a private Facebook group that's for women only. It's called Eros Temple for the Modern Woman.
Women only? I can't join, man.
Oh, sorry. Girls only.
Girls only club. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the best way to find me is via my website. I've also got a quiz on there too, and that will help you to understand more about your love language, your date language, and your intimacy language as well.
Is this a quiz for couples or individuals?
Both.
Okay, awesome.
Are we going to take it, Kris?
Oh, I think we should.
Awesome. And so I did see something in here about your one-on-one coaching. Did I see that you're offering a free 30-minute coaching session to our listeners?
Yeah, yes, I do. So I invite anybody that's listening to this to jump on a call. And in that call, it goes for about 30 to 45 minutes. And I'll just help you to understand and identify some of your obstacles, challenges, and just help you get more clarity of what's blocking you from experiencing love or creating the relationship that you desire. And then also look at what the next steps are for you to help you move through some of these blockages.
I think that is such a fantastic offer. And I think especially as we look at this world starting to open up again and people having been experiencing so much trauma and isolation as it related to COVID and even some anxiety about being around other people, that it would be nice to have a little bit of a love tune-up by getting a coaching session with you, Nathalie, to help open our hearts back up and be ready to embrace relationships. And even for those that have been locked down together, sometimes you get in that monotonous, just survival mode over the last year and a half to be able to kind of have a little, I call it a spring refresh, or jump into summer with Nathalie Sommer. There you go.
There you go, yeah.
that. I like that.
Yeah. There you go. So I've just helped you, your new ad campaign.
I love it. And I think that's the thing as well. It doesn't always have to be all doom and gloom in a relationship. Like, it can just be like an overhaul and learning some new tools and learning more things about yourself and your partner. That's always a good thing. Doesn't always have to be doom and gloom.
Yeah, I agree. And Kris and I talk about this, and I don't want to speak for you, honey, but we say, and we're best friends. And so we're definitely, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, we are best friends. I mean, we talk every day. We see each other every day. Now she's home a lot with the COVID, working from home for right now until they put her back to work. But, we talk every day. We talk all day long. We have coffee every morning together. We go everywhere together. I think we've been together like nonstop since we met.
Pretty much. But, there does come a time where that friendship is more present, and maybe the work on the relationship and the romance and all of that is kind of not tended to as much because we're just like buddies. And so I think that it's good for everybody to step back and think of like, how do we refresh this? How do we just get a few more tools to help us be even stronger? Because that's the goal. And especially for us, with this being a second marriage, is you want to build that solid foundation of communication and connection to help stay bonded to each other so that friction and more hurt doesn't occur.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, friendship's so important. Have that as your foundation. And then on top of that, you create polarity and playfulness.
Yeah, I love that so much. Well, Nathalie, we have really loved to having you on the show today. So again, remind our listeners where they can find you.
So they can find me on my website, nathaliesommer.com.
Fantastic.
And we're going to leave that information for you folks in the show notes. So definitely take advantage of this because that's such a wonderful gift to get some one-on-one time with Nathalie. And thank you so much for staying up late to join us for this interview. And I think that's the other great thing about you being in another country is that your hours can be a bit more flexible. So like Kris works nights, so you might be available, in the morning or mid-morning to connect with us if we wanted to reach out to you for coaching.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, Nathalie, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much, Kris and Kristine. It was such a pleasure and great conversation. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, do you have a podcast, or maybe you're just thinking about starting a podcast? Well, I am Kris from Podtastic Audio, and here I show you tips and tricks on how to make your audio sound the best it possibly can with the gear you already have. With 2 years of experience on the Kris and Kristine show, creating the finest audio I possibly can make, I will show you the tips and tricks I have used on that show to make the audio sound fantastic. So if you have any podcast-related questions to your audio, you always can email me at podtasticaudio@gmail.com, like this guy here did. His name is Joe. Joe writes in from the cast. Hey Kris, when we all sit down together to record our episode, our audio is too low and it has a lot of echo in the recording. How do we make our show sound better? Well, Joe, is the microphone you're using rhyme with the name Betty? And is that microphone in the same room with you? I'd start with that stuff first. And for more Podtastic Audio information, you can go to anchor.fm/Podtastic Audio, and you keep on making your amazing podcast.
Well, that was super interesting, and I loved how she was able to help us really understand what that masculine and feminine polarity means in relationships.
Oh, I know. It's a new concept for us, for me anyways, thinking about that kind of thing. So,
does it make you feel weird though if somebody, like if I was to point out to you in a nice way and say like that's more you're in your feminine right now, would that make you upset?
Listen, I am okay as a guy of all traits who can handle his sexuality and femininity or whatever you call it.
No, it's just the feminine polarity.
Yes, that too. I can handle my polarity, no problem. So I am very comfortable with whatever.
I know. I think that you jump between them, and so then I'm constantly like, oh my gosh, like I just need to be in one study. I find myself more on the masculine side, not being a guy, but like take charge. But I think we've talked about that in our relationship, how some of that is because of my job that's required me to be a leader.
Right. Your entire career has been in just like that. So think about that. Someone who's always been in that leadership role, like almost every job you've had since your education, it's been whether it's been a teacher or whether it's been like a principal or something like that. It's been in that leadership management position of some sort.
Right, that's true. And what's interesting in bringing this up is when you see individuals, like when you see women stepping into the masculine, we can get stereotyped a lot by other people as being like bossy or being controlling or being too serious or whatever. But, I think that when we're in balance with our partner, it helps us to feel comfortable to step into what our true identity is. I know for me, I prefer to sit back and to let someone take the lead, but I have to feel very safe for that to happen.
What do you mean by that?
Like I have to feel emotionally safe. I have to feel like I don't need to beg for my needs to be met, whether it's I don't want you to read my mind, but to anticipate that there's things there's things that need to be done. Like if I'm not feeling great or whatever, that you'll anticipate. And I know that's a lot to ask. And so I've just been trying to, I guess what I've been wrestling with is expectations of relationships myself, because I want to have realistic expectations. But quite honestly, I just want to be taken care of.
I think we all do some way or another. And even a guy who feels like he has to be the guy to provide for everything and take care of everything. And for the lady,
But the providing and taking care of, they show up as two different ways, because providing is like out working and earning and providing for the family, and taking care is more nurturing. So I guess what I'm wanting is somebody to nurture me.
But you think about it, the DNA of a human being, it's actually, the guys are always if you go back to the caveman days, we go out and club and bring back the squirrel and you guys cook it for us and all that. So I think it's kind of like that. It's just the way it is,
But okay, I'm going to challenge that assumption. Do you really think that that's just the way it is, or if that's the way that we've been conditioned to be, and we have to unlearn and relearn how to be healthy in relationships? Because, anytime you say that's just the way men are, but that's not quite true, because I've had to develop some of those types of characteristics and feel comfortable providing for my son. And I don't think that makes me a guy. Sometimes people will be like, why are you being such a dude? And it's I'm not.
You're also everybody's a product of their environment. So if your environment is you are a single mother and you have to provide, then you do that. But what I'm saying is that if you strip the entire world out, it's a blank canvas. You got two human beings, male, female, drop them in a situation, drop them in a desert island or whatever, where there's no rules, there's no regulations. And the man will probably be more of the provider type, and he'll go out and get the food, hunting, and the wife will probably tend to more of the cooking. It's just naturally the way things fall in place.
I disagree.
You're trying to tell me that if you and I were on a deserted island right now, you would say you'd be out there cooking, killing, and I'd be cooking?
I mean, I have great critical thinking, so absolutely. I mean, I can build things. I can, not that I would kill animals, but I can provide. And I think of sometimes we confuse these more masculine and feminine polarities with actual stereotypes. But I think of in the animal kingdom, people always assume the male is the one that goes out and kills and brings back the prey. But that's not the truth. And even with the emperor penguins, the male is the one who tends to the eggs and keeps them warm while the women go out. The female penguins go out.
You know why it is? Because the males know to sit down and
You're just pulling out all the jokes. But in everything that we're saying, while we know we've been talking about masculine and feminine polarity, one of the things that I do want to recognize that's very important to me to be able to share is we know that it is Pride Month. And so while we're talking about masculine and feminine, we want to ensure that we're not marginalizing anyone. We're just speaking of polarities as it relates to relationships, and we're not saying that it's necessarily binary in nature.
Yes, exactly what Kristine said over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so thank you all for being here with us today. We hope that you learned something that you can carry into your relationships, any kind of relationships, to help you, enhance your connection and if it's a romantic relationship, that you'll stoke the fires, right?
Oh, fantastic. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend or, and if you want to go to our website, that is www.krisandkristineshow.com.
And that's Kris and Kristine with K's.
And we will be back with you guys with an all-new episode next week.
Remember this week that life is too short to wake up in the morning with regret.
So love the people who treat you right, forget about the ones who don't, and believe that everything happens for a reason.
If you get a chance, take it. If it changes your life, let it. Nobody said that it would be easy.
They just promised it would be worth it. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Kris.
And I'm Kristine. And until next week,
keep moving forward.